The Spurs have the number 2 pick in the 2025 draft. It's pretty obvious, right? It's going to be Dylan Harper.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs, right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kens 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Hope you're having a great day. And as always, thank y'all for being the everydayers coming here to Locked On Spurs every single day to discuss all things silver and black. Make sure to follow us on YouTube at Locked On Spurs. And of course, subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Kens 5 Plus app. You know what to do. What are we talking about today? We're going to put into focus the number 2 pick, the Spurs own, and whether or not it is 100% for sure Dylan Harper. You look at all the mock drafts, it's like almost a landslide. Spurs are going to go number 2 with Harper. It's Harper this, Harper that, mock draft this, mock draft that, Spurs and Harper, right? All right, so let's put the kid in focus. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to give a little scouting report. Is what we like, what we don't like. Does this cause a ripple effect in the current roster, or more particularly a current player? We'll talk about that and more. Then just get raw thoughts about the number 2 pick and how does that change things for the Spurs in their rebuild. It's going to bring in our guest. He is back, everybody. Michael Jimenez. Yes, the man who loves to travel, apparently. He traveled all over the world right now, from where you at him is Bermuda, Conroe, San Antonio. I mean, pick a spot on the map. Jimenez probably has been there recently. Make sure to follow him on X at MJ Acquired Taste. You want to do that right now. Jimenez, welcome back to Locked On Spurs.
Hey, man, glad to be back. 2-week vacation over. My girlfriend and I are going to be doing the Kokomo tour, man. We're trying to do the, Bermuda, Jamaica. Who I want to take it to Bermuda, Bahamas, all that stuff. Yeah, so we're trying to go to all the locations in a 5-year span. So we just got back from Jamaica and the Florida Keys, so it was pretty cool.
Oh man, yeah. Well, did you get a tan? Did you get all tan out there?
I am dark, and it's May. Dude.
Hey, and then you come back to San Antonio where the heat's get cranked up now. That sun's beating down everybody already.
Oh, dude, man, it was dripping down my neck yesterday. It was awful, but welcome to summer.
Man, don't ever see that again. Dripping down my neck. That doesn't sound good, dude. And it's again, he is with the Area 210 podcast on YouTube. He'll talk about that in just a few minutes. So let's go and dive into this, put into focus Mr. Dylan Harper. As I mentioned in the intro, Jimenez, you look at almost every mock draft, it seems to be that, it's Harper's name linked to the Spurs. I mean, you can't go wrong with Harper at number 2 because X, Y, and Z, and he does this, A, B, and C, and oh my God, he's such the obvious pick. Let's start off there. Is he the obvious pick at number 2 for the Spurs?
Yeah, he is. And it's kind of a weird thing because it's one of those things where it's not the position necessarily that we need, but are the Spurs really in the situation where you pick for need or do you pick for the best player available? Mm-hmm. I know we have the rookie of the year in Stephon Castle. He has a fantastic future ahead of him. But I mean, let's be honest here. If Dylan Harper was in last year's draft, he would have been number 1 overall.
Yeah,
and it would have been by far. So, you have comp comparisons to Dylan Harper being like his dad, Ron Harper, to Dwayne Wade, to a lot Jalen Brunson I'm seeing as a player comparison. It's an obvious choice when it comes to talent, but it's not an obvious choice when it comes to actual need of the team at the moment.
Yeah. And we look at just Harper himself. I mean, serious. You look at every mock. I mean, Jimenez is just. It feels like, is this like too good to be true? Because you get every aggregate mock draft rank, he's 2. The worst rank in an aggregate mock draft situation is 2. I mean, they really seem like he's the hands down number 2 pick. Now look at last season. Harper averaged about 19.4 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.4 steals per game. He shot about 48% from the field, 33% from the 3 line, 75% from the foul line. This all did at Rutgers. That 75% from the foul line, that kind of threw me off a bit. I was like, I think that should be a little higher. But with the Spurs needing perimeter shooting, that's one of their big to-do lists this offseason. Get outside shooters, obviously get a big. That 48%, 33%, it's okay. I just think they could do better in that department. Your thoughts?
No, understood. I mean, keep in mind, Castle did improve his 3-point shooting from his freshman year at UConn to his rookie campaign with the Spurs. So you look at Dylan Harper. Dylan Harper had better stats than Castle while in college. I think the thing about it is that people have all been enamored with Cooper Flag, and it's the Cooper Flag sweepstakes, right? And Dallas ends up getting the number 1 overall pick. But really, it's a 1 and a 1A, and then there's a tier 2. And that's the thing, is that Dylan Harper has been considered to be the 1A of this group, not this big fall off into the second or third tier of player. And there was a point midway through the college season, somewhere around January or so, where there were people asking the question, well, wait a minute, maybe Dylan Harper should be the number 1 overall pick. But then you saw the closeout and the March Madness that Duke had and that Cooper Flag had, where it was like, okay, he solidified himself as the number 1 guy. Let's take a step back on Dylan Harper being number 1 overall. But it's a spoil of riches. I brought up the point on the podcast the other day that, the Spurs had, going into last season, a backcourt that had a 39-year-old Chris Paul, that had a rookie in Stephon Castle who had never played a game. You had Blake Wesley, and you had an injured Devin Vassell. And now we have the potential of going into a new season just 12 months later, October 2025, with De'Aaron Fox, a rookie of the year in Stephon Castle, a healthy Devin Vassell, and potentially the number 2 overall pick of the draft in Dylan Harper. It's amazing how this team has transformed itself in just 12 months.
Yeah, and I want to highlight something with you, and you mentioned this on social media recently about his lineage. Obviously, we all know who his dad is, Ron Harper, NBA champion. But it's not just that stops there. His brother is currently on the Pistons squad, Ron Harper Jr. His mother, Maria Harper, played at college basketball for the University of New Orleans and now an assistant coach at Don Bosco Prep. Why did you want to highlight that? You made it very clear. You told Spurs fans, let's not forget about his lineage, his pedigree.
Well, it's corporate knowledge. And that's the thing, is that, I had a lot of people who came up to me over the past couple of days who were like, yeah, well, Bronny James and Gary Payton Jr., that's different, man. No one was going to live up to LeBron James. No one was ever going to live up to Gary Payton. But I think when you look at Ron Harper being the father, and like you mentioned, his mother also having basketball pedigree as well. Ron Harper, people forget. I think people who are listening to this podcast who are under the age of 30, 35, don't realize who Ron Harper was. Ron Harper was a 5-time NBA champion starting point guard. Won 3 of those rings with Michael Jordan. So when you look at those highlights of Michael Jordan winning championships and all that, the glory years of the 1990s, guess who was the starting point guard? It was Ron Harper, Dylan Harper's dad. When you look at Shaq and Kobe win 2 of the rings in the early 2000s when they were battling against the Spurs, who was the starting point guard? Ron Harper. Ron Harper was somebody who was able to manage egos, who was able to manage himself and also be a guy who could average 20 points per game, 5 assists and 5 rebounds. And Ron Harper was also an assistant coach with the Detroit Pistons.
That's right.
The corporate knowledge that his son has. Dylan Harper has been around the NBA for so long. I made a joke. It's kind of like Arch Manning being able to turn to Peyton and Eli and his grandfather Archie for advice. And who is Ron Harper? Who's one of his best friends? Michael Jordan. So it's one of those things where Dylan Harper has been grown, has been in this environment his entire life. And now he's ready to take that leap. And unlike Bronny, unlike Gary Payton Jr., Dylan Harper was a consensus 5-star recruit coming out of high school. He was the New Jersey high school basketball player of the year. He could have gone to Duke and played with Cooper Flag, but decided to go to Rutgers instead. Dylan Harper is going to be a stud in the NBA. And the question is, are the Spurs going to keep him? Are the Spurs going to draft him? Or are the Spurs going to bundle him and try to get a Giannis or a star player elsewhere?
We're not even talking about the consensus number 2 pick. Again, that is Dylan Harper. When we get back, we're going to look more at his scouting report, strengths, weaknesses, how would he fit with San Antonio. Then later on the show, what about that number 2 pick? Is it going to have ramifications on the current roster? All that and more right here on Locked On Spurs with Mike Jimenez of Area 210 Podcast. Follow him on X at MJ Acquired Taste. You want to do that ASAP. But first, I want to talk to you about Wayfair.
The days are getting longer, the weather's warming up, and people are spending more time outside, which means it's the perfect time to refresh your outdoor space. Whether you're working on a big backyard, small balcony, Wayfair has everything you need to make it feel more like you. Wayfair's massive selection of outdoor essentials makes it easy to transform any space into your ideal summer setup. From comfy conversation sets to sleek dining tables, outdoor decor, they got it all, and at prices that fit your budget. Hey, I love the mix of new styles they offer. Wayfair makes it super easy to find pieces that match your vibe without spending a fortune. Delivery's free, hassle-free, even for the big stuff. Whether you're entertaining guests or just relaxing solo, shop Wayfair to help you unwind. Shop a huge selection of outdoor furniture online this summer. Get outside with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. That's wayfair.com. Every style, every home.
Oh, hey, this is Morty Smith and Cheese. You are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia. Cheese.
We're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Mike Jimenez. He is back, everybody. We missed him here. So we threw him an ask, a text, and he said, yeah, I'll hop on today. And perfect timing, too, because the Spurs just won the lottery. Well, won number 2 pick in the lottery. And likely, at least according to the mocks, are going to get Dylan Harper. Before we hit the scouting reports here, Jimenez, I want to ask you this. Do you see any other potential player sneaking in at number 2 the Spurs could get? Like, in other words, here we are. Cooper Flag goes number 1. Everybody's like, all right, Ron Harper's next. And then I'm making this up. It's Ace Bailey. Everybody's like, whoa, okay. You see anything like scenario like that happening?
Well, I mean, I don't think that that's a makeup there. Ace Bailey, who was Dylan Harper's teammate over at Rutgers, is projected to go into the top 5. It's almost as though the Spurs, could have and should have gotten the 3 spot. It would have been easier for Brian Wright to make that decision because you'd be like, okay, Cooper Flag goes 1, Dylan Harper goes 2. Well, then we just fill the need who happens to be the best player on the board in Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey coming in at 6'7" or so, small forward, can knock down the 3. If you're drafting for need, you go for Ace Bailey. Maybe, I mean, if you look at the draft and you think that you can get Ace Bailey at 3 or 4, maybe you consider the opportunity to slide down a pick or 2 to pick up additional draft capital down the way. The Spurs are in a very interesting position here because Ace Bailey is the player that they need, but the fact of the matter is that Dylan Harper might have the higher potential, the higher upside when it comes to it all. So do you draft for need or do you draft for talent? Do you draft for potential? And that's the crazy aspect of it all. I was looking at the video of both Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper when it came to their combine, when it comes to shooting threes. Both of them were knocking them down. The one thing that concerned me about Dylan Harper was that his release point was super low. I mean, we're not talking Sean Marion low, but I mean, pretty dang close to Sean Marion. The ball was going through the hoop, though. But if you look at the way that they play, and if you look at Dylan Harper and how he plays compared to, say, a Stephon Castle, who's Rookie of the Year. Stephon Castle, when he attacks the basket, he does this, he slows down, right? He de-escalates, if you will. And it's just his way of attacking the basket. Right. He lets the defender fly by, and then he just puts it up, right? And it's just, he slows down. He's quick, then he slows down, lets the defender fly by. Dylan Harper attacks the rim like he wants to take the rim off the backboard.
Right.
He accelerates as he's going forward. And I think what makes Dylan Harper a little bit better potentially than Stephon Castle is the fact that he has a post-up game. He might only be 6'4.5", 6'5", but he likes to post up. And he likes to do drop steps and almost like a dream shake type of thing. It's a unique skill set for somebody who's his size, because normally when you think of combo guards or point guards, you think of them attacking the basket, 24/7, Dylan Harper will back you down. And it's just a different skill set that he has compared to a Stefan Castle. It's going to be interesting if we have both.
Right. And we'll more on that in a bit. So we'll tackle that topic right there. But what I like about Harper and how he would fit in San Antonio is how effective he is in the open court. Just effective. You mentioned trying to rip down that rim. If their Spurs are running and they're going and that pace is high and he's leading the attack, I mean, first of all, he's a great downhill attacker, great body control. You mentioned about finishing at the rim. I believe he shot about 68% from the field at the rim. Mm-hmm. So he definitely can't, get that shot in if he's close by in that paint area. He drives right. He can draw fouls. You see him do that all at Rutgers last season. And here's the thing too, he can guard multiple positions, and I think that's going to fit well in San Antonio. And good quickness. I also, dare I say he has a better handle than Castle. I think he has a better handle and definitely a better footwork. Now, no knock on Castle. Castle's a solid, great player. But we're just looking at Harper right now, putting in focus. I just like the craftiness of him. He is just so crafty with the ball. He can get to the rim. He can connect on those shots. We went over his shooting percentage a little while ago. And I want to dive more into the three-point shooting here. Jimenez, he shot 45% on catch and shoot last year. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So I think if the Spurs do go number 2 with Harper, and I think he's ready plug and play, isn't he?
He is. And I think a lot of Spurs fans were offended by some of the comments that I made on social media about Castles.
No,
Castle's my
shocker,
right?
Isn't that happening? Yeah.
But Castle's is my favorite player on the team this past season, and Dylan Harper might take that, because you compare the two because unfortunately they play the same position, right? They play the same type of combo guard style. But you look at it and you go, who has better handles, Harper or Castle? Spurs fans may not want to hear this, but it's Harper. Who's a better three-point shooter? Spurs fans may not want to hear this, but it's Harper. What the one thing that Castle does a little bit better than Harper is play defense. And that's a big thing. That's an important thing. But Harper isn't bad at defense. It's just, Castle's borderline elite when it comes to it. So, you look at it from an offensive perspective, offensively, Harper's better than Castle. Castle's better defensively. Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting dilemma that the Spurs are going to face when it comes to picking Dylan Harper, is that we already have a guy that's there. But it reminds me of back in the day, when remember, I'm not going to compare Dylan Harper to Jordan, but back in the day, you saw the Rockets refuse to get Jordan because they already had Clyde Drexler. It's like, well, we already have somebody who's really good. Well, but what if there's somebody that's better out there? Look at Detroit. When Detroit had Jaden Ivey, I believe, and they were like, well, Cade Cunningham's there. Let's go ahead and take Cade Cunningham. Sometimes you take the player who potentially is the better player,
right?
Even if it's at a position you don't necessarily need right now.
Yeah, and you look at other scouting reports dotted across the internet right now. Some scouts believe that he's just a lefty Cade Cunningham. Mm-hmm. So that Harper right now. So, that's not a bad comp right there whatsoever. You look at other kind of comps as well. Some scouts say he's another Jalen Williams. The worst comparison I've seen is Anthony Black. So there's a lot of upside to this kid. Of course, you got to look at the bad side too. If the Spurs do select him, there's a lot of room for improvement for the young kid. Let's look at some of the scouting reports, what they have to say about his weaknesses. They say he does not have a quick first step. He doesn't have that burst skill. In other words, that blow by ability. So there's that. This is obvious. Remember, he's just a kid, but struggles with physicality. But I think that'll, work itself out as he gets older and he matures. And then you look at other negatives on him in the scouting reports here, is that he does take a lot of risk. He does a lot of risky reads. But I read all these, scouting reports and the pros and the cons. And a lot of the cons, I feel like, will only get better as he develops his game, develops his body, understands the game better, and gets into a pro situation, has guys at his side like a Harrison Barnes, Steph Castle, if they're still their teammates. So a lot of the stuff I think can be easily corrected at the pro level. I mean, look at this scouting report. It says negative here, needs improvement boxing out. Again, I think that goes back to just he's still thin. He'll get better. And I think there's a lot more upside than downside with Dylan Harper Jimenez.
Well, the one thing I do like is that there's something that he has that's extremely important if you want to be a star in the NBA, if you want to be an all-star, is he has confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And when he shoots the ball, even though the three-point percentage might be 33.3%, even though he has the need to improve, but I get that. But when he catches the ball, he doesn't hesitate.
Mm-hmm.
He's not afraid to shoot the ball. He's got that De'Aaron Fox in him, where De'Aaron Fox wants to shoot the ball at the end of the game. You see that with Dylan Harper, and that's not a skill. That's not a trait. That's just who you are. Famously, Richard Jefferson never wanted to take that shot. Famously, Richard Jefferson would get nervous, and he even admits that. And you look at Dylan Harper, he catches, he shoots. He's ready to go. He doesn't hesitate. And that's, if I had one gripe about Castle last year, was you could see from the 3-point line, he would get hesitant every once in a while. He got better as the year went on, but he got hesitant, almost like, oh, okay, I'm going to shoot it, and it was almost like he shot it slower than he should have because he was worried about form. He was trying to remember when he was being taught, and you could actually see him think as opposed to it being a natural thing, second nature. Dylan Harper, man, it's second nature for him to chunk the ball up. Good or bad, it's second nature for him to shoot it.
So I can see him already giving Mitch Johnson his first heavy dose of gray hair in those situations. Like, oh my God, what are you doing with this shot selection?
Oh yeah, you can have a lot of willpower and a lot of desire to shoot the ball, and it'd be a bad thing. Yeah. I mean, we've seen a lot of NBA players who have had all the confidence in the world, but doesn't amount to anything. Monte Ellis, for example, back in the day, he thought he was open every time he shot the ball, but that doesn't mean that it's a good thing. But I think that IQ wise, though, I mean, this is where we got to talk about with Dylan Harper. The IQ is there. Yes, he has room for improvement. There's no perfect player coming into the draft or anything like that. Everyone has a flaw. But the things that he has down, he's not a project. That's what I like. Mm-hmm. Sohan was a project. You see certain players that the Spurs have drafted over the years, Lucas Samanic and Lonnie Walker and all these players, they were all projects. Dylan Harper's plug and play. The question isn't whether he's going to be good or not. It's how good is he going to be?
Absolutely. He is Mike Jimenez of Area 210 Podcast. Follow him on X at MJ Acquired Taste. He'll talk about his show in just a few minutes. We're not done talking about Harper and the number 2 pick when we get back. What does this mean for the Spurs in the rebuild? Does this pretty much, put the gas pedal to the floor? Does it have any effects on current players if the Spurs do go Harper? That's next right here on Locked On Spurs.
As the new leader of the Decepticons, I command you to subscribe to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Mike Jimenez. He is back, everybody. We missed him here, so we threw him an invite, and he took it. And we're talking about Harper, the number 2 pick. Is Dylan the guy? But now we got to start looking at a bigger picture here, Jimenez. Let's start off with just the Spurs just win or getting the number 2 pick. And obviously you dig up the 14. That's great. It's a good pair of first round picks. But nevertheless, that number 2 pick speaks louder. And what does this do for the rebuild? Is this number 2 pick the missing key to get this franchise team out of the rebuild like now? Whether that's drafting Dylan Harper, trading down, trading out, flipping it for, everybody's saying about Giannis. I just feel like this number 2 pick, no matter what they do, is going to excel the rebuild faster.
Yeah, the rebuild's over in the sense that the idea of us going back into the lottery is done. Like at this point, it'd be malpractice on the Spurs if the Spurs don't make it into, at the very least, a play-in. And whatever they decide to do, whether it's to keep the pick and get Dylan Harper, or if it's to be flipped for a player like Giannis or whatever the case may be, we need to take this as though we are now playoff bound in some way, somehow. And I know the West is stacked, and I get that, but that's the attitude, mentality that I hope the Spurs do have. There's a big divide right now between a lot of Spurs fans right now when it comes to like, what should the Spurs do? Should the Spurs package picks and send them for Giannis? Because we have not only we have a swap with Atlanta next year, we have swaps down the road with Sacramento and Dallas, and I believe Memphis, and we have Atlanta's 2027 unprotected first round pick, and we have our own picks and several second rounders. And the question becomes, do you package them for a player? Because that was the whole point, right? The whole point of getting that was to eventually do something. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, ooh, maybe we need to pump the brakes on that, because as much as I would love to get Giannis, if you had asked me 48 hours ago before the draft, what I would want them to do, I'd say, man, just flip the picks, get a Giannis, do something. But now you ask yourself the question, do you want Giannis for 2 years and at that salary and unload the war chest, or would you rather have Dylan Harper for 8 years because it's a 4-year deal, then he becomes a restricted free agent, you get to sign him again, and keep your picks and all that flexibility? Man, if you had told me that I would change my mind, I flip-flopped big time when it came to this, because now I'm like, I want to have Dylan Harper for 8 years now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we've been mentioning his name a lot, and that's Steph Castle. If the Spurs do go Harper, it's pretty much another combo guard added to the roster. Not just Castle. There's De'Aaron Fox. There's obviously Stephon. There potentially could be Dylan Harper. You see where we're going with this. If the Spurs do go Dylan, that could have a ripple effect. And that's where you're seeing a lot of, maybe Castle will get traded, because it's practically, another guy in his mold. You can't bury and put on the bench Dylan Harper. He's an automatic guy. He's going to get some quality minutes in his rookie year, whether it's San Antonio or not. The point is this going to have a ripple effect on the roster, Jimenez? It seems like it might have it. Your thoughts?
I can see it going both ways, man. I mean, you can look at it one way and think to yourself, well, heck, when has depth been a bad thing?
Yeah.
Maybe the Spurs make a Godfather offer towards Naz Reid, for example. Maybe that's what fills the gaps, because Naz Reid can spread the floor and play down low and things like that. If the Spurs are going to send somebody packing, I mean, wouldn't the one that you'd want to send packing, wouldn't that be Devin Vassell? And there's 2 reasons why you would want Devin to go. If you look at Fox, because Fox is going to get that big deal, right? Someone was saying, hey, well, now you don't need to sign De'Aaron Fox that big deal. But De'Aaron Fox isn't going to be signed for like 10 years. I mean, it's going to be a 3-year deal a 3 or 4-year deal probably for him. So, but you'd want to get rid of Devin, because Devin's making what, 28 million this year. So that's not the amount of money you want to spend to somebody who's going to be the 6th man or the 7th man on the team, because that's just the way that it would work. He's the one that I'd want to be the odd man out, even though he's been a good player, decent player for the team for so long. But I equate this to like the rookie deals that quarterbacks have in the NFL. You got to do something with these rookie deals. You have Castle, Wemby, and potentially Dylan Harper on rookie deals. You got to do something at that point. You got to fill in the gaps. This is a pivotal year. This isn't a rebuild year anymore. Now that all these ducks in a row, it's about going for wins, and it's about having expectations. Pop is gone. We now know the direction of the team. And wow, I'm so excited as a Spurs fan for this upcoming season because of the different directions the Spurs can go in. I like the fact that the Spurs have a no-brainer at number 2 when it comes to making the pick, because I'm not a big fan of Brian Wright when it comes to making picks. But I can tell you what I am a fan of Brian Wright about. It's about what he can do with trades. He fleeced Sacramento for De'Aaron.
Sacramento, yeah, for sure. I don't think that gets highlighted enough.
Brian Wright, when it comes to wheeling and dealing on trades, man, that guy does a pretty good job at that.
Yeah,
when it comes to picking at 9 or 14 or 12, I get a little bit,
Well, we're gonna see what he's gonna do with 14. We'll see what he does with 14.
Dude, I tell you what,
if the Spurs still have it, if they still keep it, yeah.
Agreed. But if Kaman from Duke, he has a 7'1" wingspan.
Yeah, that big guy.
If he's there at 14, oh my God, man, I would be in love at that point. But I was talking on the podcast about how it appears as though 2, if not all 3 members of the 2022 Spurs first round class, because the Spurs had 3 first rounders that year. They had Blake Wesley, Malachi Branham, and Jeremy Sohan. Is it possible that the odd man out might be all 3 of those guys?
Oh, see,
at the end of next season?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's the thing. I think it just goes back to highlighting the flexibility this team has at flipping some of the current roster players and making this team better. They got to do what they got to do with the Wemby era. It's kind of been stalled, whether that's him getting injured / with the blood clots, Fox getting stopped for the season because of his finger issue. So it's been stalling, but I think next season it's time to hit the gas pedal and go full blast. And hopefully, and we'll see if Harper is going to be a part of this rebuild moving forward. But yeah, it's interesting, and then you hear about Castle's name getting thrown out there and any type of deal with Giannis or insert big name star here deal. It just seems like, man, you got to spend. I get it, money. Jimenez, you know this. You got to spend money to make money. In this case, you got to trade good assets to get better assets. But that's what the luxury of the Spurs have right now, Jimenez. They have the flexibility, many avenues to explore to help get this team out of a playoff play-in drought and get them back into postseason action. He is Mike Jimenez of Area 210 Podcast. Be sure to follow him on X at MJ Acquired Taste. Jimenez was cooking with the show on YouTube, buddy.
Dude, I'm so excited, man. Yesterday, or a couple days ago, when we had the draft, we did our show after the draft, celebrating the Spurs getting the number 2 pick, and we hit 1,000 views for the first time in a couple of years.
Way to go!
On our YouTube channel. So you can look us up as Area 210 Podcasts or Area 210 Podcasts or Alamo City Sportscast on YouTube. You'll find us there. But we were super excited because we have that chat that people respond to, in real time. And so many new names there, so many fresh names that we had not seen before. And it was great. And we talk a lot of Spurs. We talk a lot of the NFL, Cowboys, Texans. It was announced the Cowboys are going to be playing Thanksgiving against the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. That's going to be interesting. So lots to get into when it comes to sports. It's a fun time. We do pop culture. It's a very good community of listeners. We all get together from time to time to watch games, drink beer, stuff like that. But we'll probably do something for the NBA draft as well. So we're excited. But so we're on Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. and it's on YouTube.
Absolutely. Go check out his show, Area 210 Podcast. He and Joe Garcia do a damn good job at covering all things from sports, pop culture, and so much more. It's a fun show. I tune in from time to time. So should you. I think I'm going to be, this episode's going out on Thursday. So yeah, I think I might be joining you today, Jimenez. So
very nice.
Yeah, I'll see you later. Or I might have seen you already on your show over at Area 210 Podcast. Jimenez, thank you again for stopping by here and giving us your thoughts on the Spurs, the number 2 pick, Dylan Harper, and so much more. Everybody else, thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen every single day. Free and available where we get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Google app. You guys are the everydayers coming here every single day for all things silver and black. We'll be back tomorrow as Spurs off season, and now we know where they're picking. Yeah, we have a lot to talk about on that topic until the NBA draft and beyond. Hey, real quick, everybody, make sure to check out Locked On NBA Game Night every night until an NBA champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NBA Game Time on Locked On NBA or YouTube. It's on YouTube, I should say, or wherever you listen to the podcast today right now. So for Mike Jimenez, I am Jeff Garcia.